Welcome back to another episode of Murder, Mysteries, and More. My name's Kaylee.
My name is Desi.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell next to the subscribe button to turn on post notifications. Before we get into this case, we always encourage those who have useful information for any unsolved case to please report it to your local police and sheriff department.
A quick disclaimer, this video will contain some very graphic details and very upsetting topics. If you are under 18 or are not comfortable hearing these details, please click off now. Ken and Barbie, one of the most famous plastic couples in history, symbolizing what a perfect relationship looks like. Their names are also sadly infamous for being the nickname of a serial killer pair. Today we will be covering the Ken and Barbie killers.
Ken. So Paul Bernardo was born on August 27, 1964 in Scarborough, Ontario. His parents are Kenneth Walter Bernardo and Marilyn Elizabeth. He is the youngest of three. The family did seem happy, but behind closed doors, it was a totally different story. Kenneth would beat his children, beat his wife, and he sexually assaulted Deborah, which is Paul's older sister, in front of other family members. Marilyn suffered from depression, agoraphobia, which resulted in her becoming overweight, and eventually she isolated herself in the basement. Eventually, Kenneth would be charged with crimes involving voyeurism and pedophilia. Paul presented himself as happy and well-adjusted and an active member of the Boy Scouts community. Beneath that facade, he gradually developed pyromaniac tendencies and dark sexual fantasies. Around the age of 16, it was revealed that Kenneth was not Paul's father and that his mother had an affair, which when he found out that information, that really upset him. Paul attended Sir Wilfrid Laurier Collegiate Institute and the University of Toronto, Scarborough. As a day job, he worked for Amway, which was a company that sells health, beauty, and home care products. In 1986, Paul was served with restraining orders by two women after he made obscene phone calls.
Crazy much. Going on to Barbie. Karla Holmolka was born on May 4th, 1970 in Port Credit, Ontario. Her parents are Karla Holmolka and Dorothy Holmolka. She was the oldest of three, and her sisters were Tammy and Lori. Karl, her father, was an alcoholic Czechoslovak immigrant and would repeatedly insult the family during his episodes in which Karla would take refuge in the basement. Karla was described as stubborn, domineering, unable to compromise, and willing to speak her mind from a very young age. Karla had a depressive episode after attending Sir Winston Churchill Secondary School, and this resulted in her dressing in a non-conforming manner, cutting herself, and claiming false suicide attempts in order to seek attention. Karla would later develop sadistic and masochistic fantasies. Karla got a part-time job at a pet store while in high school, and after graduating was hired by Thorold Veterinary Clinic as a vet tech.
Until love, Karla and Paul came together by fate. They met at a hotel restaurant in Scarborough, Ontario in 1987. Karla was in town to attend a pet store conference that year. Karla at the time was 17 and Paul was 23. According to the sources, the pair were instantly attracted to each other and even did the extracurricular activities 2 hours after they met. Paul would continue to see Karla after that, driving to see her twice a week. Paul would slowly come to control Karla's life. He would decide how she should dress, how should she eat, and what she should believe in. He often called her fat and ugly, and many other names as well. Unlike previous girlfriends, Karla would submit and encourage his behavior, writing his indications on self-improvement lists. The reveal was that Karla wasn't actually a virgin when they met, and this deeply upset Paul. But Both of them shared the same sick, twisted fantasies, which made their relationship grow fonder.
Now on to the infamous Scarborough rapist. The Scarborough rapist was active between the years of 1987 and 1990, committing increasingly vicious rapes. The very first one being on May 4th, 1987, where a young woman getting off the bus was grabbed and brutally raped near her parents' house. Not even 2 weeks after that, a 19-year-old woman was raped in the backyard of her parents' house. Crazy. July 17th, there was an attempted rape of another woman, and the man who was the Scarborough rapist had beaten the victim but abandoned the attack when she fought him back. September 29th, there was an attempted rape of a 15-year-old girl, and the man broke into her house and entered the bedroom. He jumped on her back, put his hand over her mouth, threatened her with a knife, bruised the side of her face, and bit her ear. But the mom entered the room and screamed and scared the man off.
December 16, 1987, there was a rape of a 15-year-old girl. The following day, the Toronto police issued a warning to women traveling alone at night, especially women who rode buses. The Scarborough rapist would go on to commit 8 more rapes and 3 attempted rapes that were not successful. Paul was spotted stalking a bus shelter on May 25, 1988 by a uniformed police officer. The officer noticed him hiding under a tree and pursued him. Paul escaped. July 1990, 2 months after a composite sketch was released to the public, and that was when Paul was brought in for an interrogation by the police. Police received 2 tips pointing to Paul, the first from the bank employee and the second from Tina Sermenis, the wife of a close friend of Paul's. Police did collect a DNA sample. However, they didn't test it for some reason and decided to let Paul go after finding him more credible than Tina Sermenis. 1991, an attack of a woman happened on St. Catharines. The police did not link this case to the Scarborough rapist at the time.
Which is crazy.
Very crazy.
But I can get it, because it was in a different city, so I can get it. But on to Tammy Holmolka, which in 1990, Paul began spending long periods of time with the Holmolka family, and this was due to Paul losing his job as an accountant, which prompted him to start smuggling cigarettes across the border. Stupid as fuck. Around this time, him and Karla were engaged, but he became increasingly obsessed with her younger sister, Tammy. Paul would peer into Tammy's room at night and enter her room to masturbate while she slept. Karla would even help Paul by breaking the windows in her sister's room, which allowed him access. July 24th, Karla laced Tammy's meal with Valium that she had stolen from her workplace. Paul attempted to rape Tammy while Karla watched, but Tammy regained consciousness after a minute. December 23rd, a tragedy would strike for poor Tammy Holmolka.
Following a Christmas dinner in the Holmolka family home, the couple spiked Tammy's drink with sleeping pills. Once she was unconscious, they undressed her and Paul proceeded to rape her while Karla held a rag soaked with halothane, which she stole from her workplace, and she held that over Tammy's mouth and nose. Tammy unfortunately choked on her own vomit. She stopped breathing after that, and Karla held her down to clear her throat. They did try to revive Tammy, but they failed. The couple dressed her and moved her into her room and cleaned up the evidence before calling 911. And Tammy unfortunately would die at St. Catharines General Hospital. Although she had a visible chemical burn on her face, her death was ruled as an accident due to Paul and Karla's version of the events. Shortly after, Paul and Karla moved to Port Dalhousie. Yeah, and it's crazy that she gave up her own sister. She murdered her own sister too.
What's even crazier is that their version of events was that they had fed her some alcohol, and she died from that.
And
not even
also,
plausible.
whenever the officers did get at the house, put the evidence in the washing machine, and the officer tried to stop her, and she was playing dumb, and all that evidence got freaking destroyed.
Yep, it did. It did indeed. Jane Doe / January Girl. Shortly after Tammy's funeral on January 12th, 1991, Paul abducted a Jane Doe. He had sexually abused her while Karla watched, and then dropped her off near a deserted road near Lake Gibson. The couple called her January Girl. They never really knew who she was. June 7th, 1991, Karla invited a teenager, Jane Doe, that she had befriended at work to their new home. Karla had laced Jane Doe's drink with halcyon, and after she passed out, told Paul that she had a surprise wedding gift for him. The couple filmed themselves as they de-virginized her. Jane Doe woke up the next day with nausea, but left without realizing that she had been hurt in the genital area. She was invited back that following August, and it happened again. But this time, the girl vomited and stopped breathing while being abused, and the couple was able to resuscitate her successfully before they called an ambulance.
Leslie Mahaffey. June 15, 1991, Paul came across a 14-year-old Leslie McHaffey after cruising around looking to steal license plates. Leslie unfortunately had been locked out of her house, and she missed curfew after attending a friend's wake. Paul left his car and approached Leslie, saying that he wanted to break into a neighbor's house. Unfazed, she asked him if he had any cigarettes. When Paul led her to his car, he blindfolded her, forced her into the car, and drove her to Port Dalhousie, and informed Karla that they had a playmate. Paul and Karla videotaped themselves torturing and raping this poor innocent girl while they listened to pop music. At one point, Paul says, "You're doing a good job, Leslie, and the next 2 hours are going to determine what I do to you. Right now, you're scoring perfect," end quote. On the tape, it can be heard that once the assault escalated, Leslie cries out in pain and begs Paul to stop.
In a later description of the scene, Paul was sodomizing her while her hands were bound with twine. The following day, Karla fed Leslie a lethal dose of halcyon and says that Paul strangled her. They claim that they did this due to Leslie's blindfold slipping at some point during the torture. The couple then put Leslie's body in the basement the day before Karla's family came over for dinner. And following the dinner party, Karla and Paul dismembered Leslie and encased each part of her in cement. The couple made several trips to dump the blocks in Lake Gibson, which was 11 miles south of Port Dalhousie. At least one of the blocks weighed 200 pounds and was beyond the ability to sink. It laid near the shore, where it was found on June 29th, 1991, ironically on Karla and Paul's wedding day, which is sick.
That is right.
Yeah.
Kristen French. April 16, 1992, Karla and Paul drove through St. Catharines during after-school hours to look for potential victims. As they passed Holy Cross Secondary School, the couple spotted 15-year-old Kristen French walking home alone. They pulled into a parking lot of Grace Lutheran Church. Karla got out of the car with the map. She was pretending that she needed assistance, and when Kristen looked at the map, Paul took advantage and attacked her from behind and forced her into the front seat at knife point. From the back seat, Karla subdued Kristen by pulling her hair. She was raped and sodomized for 3 days straight. She was forced to drink large amounts of alcohol. She had to watch the tape of Leslie's torture and act in a submissive manner to Paul. By the end, Kristen had called Paul a bastard and told him, "I don't know how your wife can stand being around you," end quote. She was very brave and she fought back.
She did.
According to Karla, Paul had strangled Kristen for 7 minutes while Karla watched before she officially died. According to Paul, Karla had beaten Kristen with a rubber mallet because she had tried to escape and then was strangled with a noose around her neck, which was secured to a hope chest. The body was stored in the basement until Easter dinner with the family was over. The couple washed and cut her hair before throwing her remains in a ditch in Burlington, which is about 45 minutes away from St. Catherine's, and it's close to the cemetery where Leslie was buried.
Which is fucked up for them to dump her body there, that
Definitely.
close to the other victim.
Yeah,
It's disgusting.
horrific what they did.
Yeah, these people are awful. But eventually, these dumbasses get caught. December 27, 1992, Paul savagely beat Karla with a flashlight, leaving her with bruises on her limbs, a broken rib, and 2 black eyes. Nonetheless, Karla returned to work on January 4th, 1993, and tried to pass off her injuries as the result of an accident. Co-workers would later alert her parents, and Karla would be taken to the hospital. Once there, Karla claimed to be a battered wife and filed charges against Paul. Paul was arrested, and around this time, the DNA sample that he had given to Scarborough police was finally tested, and they identified him as the Scarborough rapist. Karla would move to Brampton with her aunt and uncle and would tell them that Paul was the Scarborough rapist and that they were both involved in the rapes and murders of Leslie and Kristen. She also told them the rapes were recorded on tape. February 17th, Paul would be arrested and police would obtain a search warrant. The search of the house lasted 71 days, with the only tape that was found showing a brief segment of Karla performing oral on Jane Doe, which is gross. I would hate to be the police and have to watch that. It's just like, who would ever think to do this kind of stuff?
This is like a whole nother level of fucked up.
Demented as fuck much.
Trial and betrayal. In February, Karla sought full immunity in exchange for her cooperation. This time, the couple's name was changed to Carl and Paul Till. Karla was given a week to accept a 12-year prison term for manslaughter or face charges for 3 murders as well as other crimes. I honestly think she should have gotten more time.
The only problem was this is that they didn't, like, certain details were left out, so that's why they offered her a deal, and like, it blew up in their faces really bad.
Karla obviously took the deal and testified against Paul in his trial. 1995, the trial began, and Paul testified that Karla was actually the killer, saying that he was only in it for the torture/rape and was willing to let them go for free. But the kicker is Karla was claiming to be a battered wife and a victim herself, and claimed that she had no participation in these crimes. But the truth always comes out. Paul tells his lawyer, Ken Barbie, that there are tapes hiding in a ceiling light fixture in the upstairs bathroom. These tapes were found and hidden until Paul's trial happened. Those videotapes exposed Karla for being an active participant in each crime. There was even a disgusting tape of her dressing up as her own sister for Paul's entertainment. And this was after her sister was murdered.
Yeah, which is disgusting.
So disgusting.
Yeah, who would ever do that? Like, bro, you got issues.
Karla's plea bargain was scrutinized by the public, and had they known, the prosecution would have never offered this deal. September 1st, 1995, Paul was sentenced to life in prison without parole for 25 years. He was also designated as a dangerous offender, making him unlikely to ever be released due to scoring 35 out of 40 on the psychopathy checklist. He definitely should not be released ever.
He probably won't be ever. I mean, like, he's still in prison. And it's been what, like, it's probably been about 25 years? 30? Maybe, almost? He's still ain't out. He ain't getting out. He gonna die in there.
Karla served her 12-year sentence as was released on July 4th, 2005. She would go to change her name, marry her lawyer's brother, and have 3 children. She honestly got really lucky because, she should be in jail.
You know what's funny though? Like, even though she changed her name and all that stuff, one of the parents found out who she actually was, and they exposed her. So she's no longer like allowed to be in any school activities or even on the PTA like she used to be.
Children. Two Reddit comments. The first one is by Mystical Madness. Ken Barbie killers. The first comment is by Deleted. All jokes aside, she stole anesthetic drugs from the veterinary hospital she worked for in order to rape her own sister with her own husband, who subsequently died, then went through the process of orchestrating a cover-up. So no, I don't think her participation was under duress at all.
In Noraga, I don't know, weird name. She saved her sister's underwear and school uniform to surprise her husband with later and turn him on. She's a psychopath who successfully conned the system. She also never participated in psychiatric work in prison. She refused. Yeah, she completely, like, conned everybody. She should still be in prison.
She really should.
Yeah, she's just as guilty. She was an active participant. Like, come on, dude.
Important Hamster 9960 says, as a Canadian, it enrages me that this bitch is walking free and living her life. She's sick and a danger to society. Yes.
She needs to go back to fucking prison. Slitherink _ Maybe she wouldn't have become a murderer if she hadn't met him, but no, I don't believe she was unwillingly involved. There are many horrifying murder cases, but what she did and what Paul did to her sister always makes me sick to think about. She should have been behind bars for the rest of her life for that murder alone. They actually think that she has a disorder where it's like where you like get off on someone like being violent and stuff.
Ugh.
So like I feel like she would have turned out like that anyways, regardless of who she was with, because she would have went for somebody who was violent.
Yeah.
But she should be in jail. It's disgusting. Come on, man. And it's the fact that she claimed to be a battered wife too. Like, no, girl.
No.
That's not how that works. That is not how that works.
Phoenix Axel Go. I wonder what her parents think of her.
Her parents probably don't even talk to her anymore.
They probably don't. And
they probably disowned her.
And from what I've heard, like whenever her sister, like after her sister was dead, they were just torn.
Sad.
Completely torn.
Yeah. Helga the Viking 21. I'm in Canada and my cousin was very nearly one of his victims when coming home from a long shift as a medical resident. She was thankfully rescued by her neighbor coming out of the house at the right time. Because of this and because I'm so close in age to Karla, I was especially obsessed with this case and thought about it. I am convinced that she was the ultimate sub to his dom, BDSM, and that her kink was doing anything to make her man happy, including rape and murder. This is not the same as being abused. She was 100% a willing participant. Exactly what I said about, like, something's fucked up in her mind. I don't know what it is, but she got some chemical imbalance in her brain. Like, girl, get that corrected. Yeah, he was an actual psychopath. I mean, she probably is an actual psychopath, but she conned the system. Hardcore. Okay, on to the next Reddit comment, which is going to be posted by Sad Assignment 3052, Ken and Barbie Killers. Let's see. Shroom Ride 88. I think it's a combination of both. I mean, you can't argue that there wasn't any domestic abuse going on, especially with that picture of Karla with the black eyes. But with that being said, she was a willing participant in the awful things they did. Hell, she even drugged her own sister for him. She didn't do it because she was scared. She was an accomplice. Thank you very much.
B. Diddy Bo says she threw a tantrum with her parents because they suggested she postpone her wedding for a short period of time to allow the family to grieve her sister's death. The wedding went ahead as planned. Yeah, that's just terrible. I mean, like, if one of my siblings died, like, super close, I would have probably postponed mine, you know, for a couple months at least.
Yeah, I would. I mean, That's what you do when there's a tragedy in the family, especially your own sister.
King _Cobra _666. She was a sadist, homicidal maniac who happened to get smacked around a bit on the side.
I mean, it do be happening.
Yeah.
Alexis. I feel what is often overlooked is Homolka's childhood. She went through drastic changes in teen years. I'm not saying she was abused, but she was sick prior to that. Her upbringing wasn't bad, but her mentality was horrid. I have never heard of a girl giving her family member/little sister to someone because they were being abused. She's messed up. And also with confessions, she tried pinning it all on Paul at first. She did try pinning it all on him, but I agree. She seems like she was pretty mentally sick before that.
Yeah, for sure.
It just kind of escalated it from there.
Jordan Thomas 330. There's a book called Deadly Innocence. I suggest you read it. It's very horrific, but it goes into detail about the relationship. Economy_Snowy 1483. I don't believe she ever experienced fear. She was left alone in the house with the last victim for a short period of time while Paul went to pick up food. He went to pick up McDonald's and the victim begged her to release them, but Karla wouldn't do it. They're equally guilty.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Sick in the head. Sick in the head. Sick in the head. Especially to your own sister. Like, why?
Yeah, that's...
She was an active participant in her own sister's death. Like,
yeah.
And the fact that they did it to several other women, too.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Not even women. They were teenage girls. Come on, bro. That is super sick.
And honestly, this is like... I'm gonna be honest, I think this is one of the worst serial killer cases.
Well, this person, their name is Zookeeper Game OK 8231, even says, for me, this case falls in the same category as Bundy, Gacy, Manson, Dahmer, and a few others.
Yeah.
Just enough. It does, because what the fuck, bro? They didn't kill as many people, but also, what the fuck? They were just as bad as those people. Like, you know, they're still serial killers themselves. They were a pair of fucking nut jobs.
Yeah.
Pair of fucking fuck nuts. They got a light bulb that won't screw in up there. You know what? Oh my god. They need lobotomies. They should have done lobotomies on them, to be honest. Although that probably wouldn't have helped. No, lobotomies are reserved for those who aren't as sadistic. Just mentally fucked up.
For Canada, this was one of the biggest and cruelest cases at the time. To think that such an attractive couple would turn out to be such a sadistic serial killer couple was just a shock to the entire world. Only true monsters would ever commit crimes like this, but at least the victims and their families got the justice they deserve.
At least half the justice they deserve. Yeah.
I would say half.
Yeah, because Karla should still be locked up. Sorry. But thank you for listening to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. Be on the lookout for another thrilling case next week, and as always, remember to keep your eyes open because you never know when you'll get snatched up